I believe in the divine timing of this universe, and I believe that sometimes those of us who seek our path with the pure heart and the ultimate goal to get to our highest and greatest good, the powers that be will sometimes very gently pick us up and place us back on that path when we stray. And they will give us a sign that is so undeniable and not open to interpretation in any way that we know we're on the right path. So here's the beginning of this crazy story. It's summertime, and I'm sitting in a Mexican restaurant, and I'm slowly licking the salt off of my fishbowl-sized margarita after a really bad, no good, terrible, awful day. And this time in my life was kind of crazy because I had made some big bets on me. Like I quit my job at the state after 10 horrible years in child support. I went back to school to finish my degree in English literature. Because that is useful. And I had a plan. My plan was I was going to get out of school, I was going to write books. I was going to be somebody's favorite English teacher. I was going to complete my transformation into Robin Williams from the Dead Poet Society. And I was just going to be that wise, woke person that changed kids' lives. And none of that happened. I ended up getting a job substitute teaching, which was kind of on that same path, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. And like I said, it was summertime. So there was no work for me, and I had to find something to do in the interim. And I got a job in an education-adjacent field where I worked for a government grant, an education grant. And let me tell you something. If you ever walk into a place, young people, and the first thing they tell you is, well, welcome to your job. We're building the plane while we're flying it. I just want you to run. Run fast, run far. Do not stay there. Because that means they have no idea what they're doing. And somehow my lowly little administrative assistant ass, sorry, I do cuss, had all the responsibility but no direction. And I got yelled at on a regular basis. And this particular day was terrible because I'd been yelled at by some monster over the phone over stuff that nobody explained to me I was supposed to do, and I was very confused. And as I was sitting at this restaurant, I was thinking about all these things, waiting for my girlfriends to arrive. And every once in a while in my life, I say once in a while, like it didn't happen a bunch of times in my life, when I've had these really bad, terrible, no good, awful days, I have this fantasy, and it's crazy. And I imagine like this entity comes just out of the ether and walks up to me, and she goes, hey, what if we make it so you don't exist? Like, you can just be gone. No, nobody will know, nobody will miss you. You won't disappoint anybody anymore, and you can just go away. And I was like, oh, you mean nobody's gonna cry, nobody's gonna be sad that I'm gone? No. We'll just poof you out of existence. And I'm like, oh, that sounds like a great deal. And as I'm getting ready to shake on the deal with my imaginary entity, my girlfriends show up. Whew, that was close. And I tell them about my terrible day. And in good girlfriend fashion, they're like, yeah, they don't deserve you. They said all the things. And my friend Megan looks at me and she's like, well, what would you do? Like, you don't like your substitute teaching job. You don't like this job. If you could do anything, what would you do? And I said, I would be a writer. And they're like, why would you want to be a writer? And I was like, well, I did get a book published in 2013. And they're like, oh, yeah, but what made you want to be a writer? And I told them the story. I went to school with Susanna, a small semi-private school in Richmond, Kentucky. And I was like a C and B student. I stayed off everybody's radar. I had undiagnosed ADHD and dyslexia in the 80s as a girl, which meant you do not want attention of any kind. So if there was a day that went by that I was not talked to by faculty or administration, I was like, yes, this was a great day. And we had this English teacher named Mr. Roberts, and he was the best. And he was like this huge dude, 6'4", kind of lumberjacky, flannel shirts, suspenders, round around the middle. And when he laughed, he held his stomach like jolly old Saint Nick. He was a great dude, and he assigned us this 500-word personal narrative that we had to write. And he was like, it has to be a true story, it has to be something real. And I was like, oh, I'm racking my brain. I'm like, I don't know, I don't have anything interesting to write about. And right around that time, the assignment was due, my cat passed away. My childhood pet. And I didn't even notice she was sick because I was off doing my teenage stuff with my boyfriend and running around, not paying any attention. And one day I went to school, had a cat, came home, no cat, and I was just like devastated. This was my first major loss at like 16 years old, 17. And so I sat down at the computer that night and I typed this love letter to my cat. And I said goodbye and I apologized for not being there for her. And I just cried onto the keyboard and I hit print and I shoved it in a folder. And I didn't expect anybody would ever read it. You know, I turned it in, because the school we went to, our teachers were great about assigning us stuff, not great about giving it back. So I didn't think anything of it, and I was just kind of like, oh, it was kind of a healing moment for me. And a few days go by, and I'm standing outside Mr. Roberts' classroom, and I feel these two, like, big, strong, hot, warm hands on my shoulders. I'm like, what the heck? People don't touch me in the hallway. Nobody sees me. I'm like invisible. I'm like, what is going on? And I turn around and there's Mr. Roberts. I'm like, oh, shh. He's really close to me. Something else I'm not used to. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? And he's like, he looks at me. And he really, really looks at me. And it was like the first time in my life, like I understood the difference between being looked at and being seen. You know, like that moment that you feel that, it's like, holy shit. Like, you actually see me this way, what? And he goes, I'm sorry about your cat. And then he says, you're a really great writer. And I was like, boy, not me. I'm good at a lot of things. I'm great at nothing. And he's like, you're a great writer. And I was like, whew, I didn't know what to do, so I just kind of ran away so I wouldn't cry. And as I'm telling my friends a story at this random Mexican joint in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky on a Tuesday night, it's like I summoned him in the telling. And out of the back room of this Mexican restaurant comes Mr. Roberts. And he walks out, and I'm just like, holy crap! And my friends are like, what is it? I'm like, that's Mr. Roberts! And they're like, no, it isn't. I'm like, it is. And I jump up out of my seat and I run to him and I finally get to tell him, I'm like, Mr. Roberts, I never would have written that novel. I never would have tried to get it published. I never would have done any of that if you hadn't told me I was a great writer when I was a senior in high school. And he hugged me and he was so happy for me. And I got on Amazon and ordered my book like right that second. And we talked for a few minutes and it was just like this most beautiful, magical, just, I don't know, all the things all at one time. And unfortunately, not too long after that, he passed away. But I was so thankful that I got that moment on that random Tuesday night to tell him that I appreciated him for what he'd said to me in the hallway. Just that one sentence changed the course of my existence. And you know what? I am a writer. I'm a builder of worlds and a spinner of yarn and a teller of tales. And I believe... Yes, I believe in the divine timing of this universe. Thank you.